This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, and neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So, Russ, the case I'm telling you today definitely needs to be a Netflix movie or series. In honor of Mother's Day, I'm telling you a case of a mom who went above and beyond for her daughter. She went up against the most brutal cartel in Mexican history because she made a vow to find whoever kidnapped her daughter and make them pay. This is the case of Miriam Rodriguez. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell my husband, Russ, true crime stories and he reacts to them.
What's up, folks? It's your boy Russ, a.k.a. the man with the bad haircut, a.k.a. just thinks I'm a baby.
I didn't know if you were going to bring up your haircut because I was thinking about bringing it up. But you know what? I'm so nice. I'm honestly so nice that I was like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't. I don't want him to feel bad about his haircut.
Well, it's not that bad. What happened was I've been cutting my own hair for years, and I'm pretty good at it.
You do a great job, seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot to work with.
Oh, okay.
You know? And I went to go, like, buzz the back of my head with the clipper, but I forgot to put the attachment on it. I thought I had the attachment on it, and I zeked my head. So now I kind of have like a crew cut, like a high and tight, like an army man.
Yeah, your hair is the shortest I think it's been in 14 years.
Yeah, but I kept facial hair,
since we've been
you know?
together. Yeah, you had to keep the facial hair. You don't want to go short hair and no facial hair. You look like a totally different person.
I know.
That would be crazy.
So I was curious. I was wondering if any other guys out there, if their wives think that they're a baby.
Oh, stop it.
Because we're going out the other day.
Russ,
And
you're so stupid.
we're about to leave the house.
Uh-huh.
And just goes, "Do you got any deodorant on?" I'm like, "What?" I've been going outside my whole life since and putting deodorant on and I haven't stunk. Like, who checks on me? So then we get to the elevator. And she goes, "Watch your feet." Like, what does she think? So what does she think happens when she's not around? Like, all of a sudden I'd be in the elevator, my foot would get stuck, I'd start screaming, help! And then I'd be like, but when you guys come, I might stink because I don't have deodorant on.
Let me explain, okay? Let me explain. You were wearing a jersey that had your armpits out.
And the nicks on it.
And last week, I forgot to put on deodorant before I went to work. And so, since your armpits were going to be exposed to the world, I just thought maybe I should remind him about deodorant.
Maybe.
Because I forgot myself last week.
But maybe you would think he has his armpits out. Of course he didn't forget deodorant today.
I should have thought that. You're right. I should have thought that. But...
And I've had feet for 42 years and I've never had a foot get caught in an elevator. So,
look, I was just trying to look out for you. I don't think you're a baby
guys,
at all. I promise.
You know what probably happens, fellas? There's some fellas out there listening with their wives.
Mm-hmm.
Our wives think that we would just die if they're not around. But we survived before we met them.
Yeah. Well.
I'm alive.
No, you're right. I shouldn't remind you to put on deodorant. You're right.
I think from now on, I'm going to not wear deodorant to see what you'll say if I stink.
Oh, okay.
I'm never going to do that.
Yeah, you would never do that. So a couple of our listeners suggested that I watch a show. It's a true crime, drama series that just came out on Hulu. And it's honestly really good. I binged it, of course, because I'm a binger. It's called Under the Bridge, and it's about the Rena Verk case in Canada, which
I watched a little
is
bit
a
of that.
crazy case. And our listeners were right. They knew I would like it, but it is so nuts. And of course, Hulu is doing that thing where they put out 4 episodes and then they make you wait week by week, which is so annoying because you binge all 4 of them. But so far, it's really good. Highly recommend everyone go watch it because it's crazy. Speaking of shows, on the Patreon, we are on episode 5 of our 5-episode series, Homicide New York. And we are about to record episode 5 this upcoming week, which is super exciting. All the patrons loved it. So Russ, you have the patron shout outs. You got to shout out all the new peeps.
Yes, I do. So every week when you guys join, I say the same thing. I don't have a new shtick. I got to think of one. But we got a bunch of stuff on Patreon, and I will shout you out when you join. So this week's Patreons are Jessica, Florence, Sharon, Amber, Bethany, Sierra, Kayla, Lauren, Lena, Zoma, Victoria, Peter, Taryn, Christina, Claire, Liz, Krista, Enrique, Risa, Jennifer, Moria, and Mortal Musings Podcast. So Mortal Musings Podcast, they're dope. They're a husband and wife couple that the wife tells the husband some stuff and he talks shit like me.
Okay.
Go check them out. They're pretty cool. I talk to them on social media sometimes.
Awesome. Well, cheers to you guys.
Cheers to you guys. You can hear my ice maybe jingle. I got what am I drinking today? A pig whistle.
Pig whistle.
Whistle pig.
Whistle pig.
Whistle pig bourbon. So cheers to you guys.
Yes, you got some bourbon on deck.
All right. Now, I do have another job, folks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't normally read long reviews because I was one of those kids that didn't really like reading out loud.
Aw.
I could read, obviously. Every week I do a review of the week.
Yes.
So this week's review of the week is from Andy K. Foley. This pod hits different. Jess, Lil Weezy from Baltimore, and Russ the Profiler from the Bronx have the most hilarious yet sweet relationship. Lil Weezy tells the stories, and the fill-in-the-blankologist profiler listens and pipes in when he so chooses. Jess tells a great story and is respectful to the victims. Throughout the episode, she lovingly laughs at Russ, gently scolds Russ, and awkwardly tries to react to the comments he makes about himself regarding the struggles from his accident.
Oh.
They balance each other out. They encourage each other and are forever laughing at silly things they say or words they can't pronounce. There are a lot of true crime podcasts out there, but this one hits different because of their bond, content, and delivery. Or it could just be Because Jess sounds bald.
Nuh-uh.
I swear.
Jess sounds bald.
Let's go, Andy. Let's go.
Because Jess sounds bald. It
Yeah.
says that.
I swear.
That was such a good review up until that point.
It made it better. You weren't going to laugh at it. We got to get Jess with a bald cap.
That's hilarious.
I mean, right now, I'm pretty much bald, but like, there's fuzz.
There is fuzz, but this is the shortest hair you've had in years.
That's right. I'm rocking it because I look too good to be worrying about that.
Yeah. That was really good. It was so sweet. And then at the end, they roasted me. That was funny. I bet you died when you read that.
Of course, anything that makes fun of you makes me laugh.
Whatever. Well, that was a good one. Okay. In honor of Mother's Day,
Shout out to the good moms.
I am telling you a case that I find not only so incredible and inspiring, but also shows sheer resilience and fearlessness in the face of a seemingly insurmountable situation. There are not a ton of sources on this case that go into a lot of detail. There are a few podcasts that gloss over it, and some TikToks and YouTube videos here and there. But I wanted to deep dive this thing and get all the info I could. So I listened to the audiobook of the most prominent and detailed account of this case, a book called Fear is Just a Word by Azam Ahmed. He's a writer for the New York Times, and he broke this story to the international media. His book is the most in-depth and detailed account of this case, and it was so good. I truly do not know how this case is not a movie or a TV series. Netflix, let's go.
Hit me up, Netflix. You know I'm ready to make my directorial debut.
Exactly.
I mean, Jess would be a good director. She's always telling me what to do.
I would be a good director. Miriam Rodriguez was a mom of 3 and shop owner in her mid-50s, living in Mexico.
What kind of shop?
It was a shop that sold cowboy hats and cowboy boots.
Oh, okay.
Her world was turned upside down in 2014 when members of the Los Zetas cartel, the most brutal cartel in Mexican history, kidnapped her 20-year-old daughter Karen for ransom. After paying the ransom, the cartel never returned Karen to her family. And Miriam made it her mission to hunt her captors down one by one. She once told a friend of hers, "Fear is just a word." And Miriam Rodriguez would live and die by this. This is her amazing story. Are you ready?
Hell yeah, bring on the revenge.
On March 27, 2016, in San Fernando, Mexico, Miriam Rodriguez hurried across the Matamoros International Bridge that connects Mexico to Texas. In her purse, she carried a pistol. Pausing to catch her breath, she studied a photo of her next target, the florist. Her year-long hunt had led her to this very moment. She tracked him online, questioned his criminal associates, and even befriended his relatives, looking for leads. Now, she had been tipped off that he was selling flowers near the border. Since 2014, Miriam had been relentless in pursuing the people responsible for kidnapping and murdering her daughter, Karen.
Love that.
While the police made little progress in Karen's case, Miriam had already ensured half of them were behind bars through her own meticulous and methodical investigation.
This isn't in Mexico, like the cartel's kind of in charge. Like the police are afraid of the cartel, as far as I know.
Yes, and I'll tell you a lot about it coming up, but the police are also corrupted by the cartels. She was intimately familiar with their routines, social circles, hometowns, and upbringings. Without pausing to freshen up, Miriam threw on a trench coat over her pajamas, covered her bright red hair with a baseball cap, and placed her pistol in her purse. She headed to the border to find the florist. On the bridge, she scanned the vendors selling food, bootleg movies, and candles looking for flower carts. But that day, he wasn't selling flowers. He was selling sunglasses instead. Eventually spotting him, her excitement got the better of her. She approached a little too closely. He recognized her, and the florist started running.
He ran, and he's supposed to be the big bad man?
He ran along the narrow pedestrian walkway, hoping to escape. However, Miriam, then 56 years old, chased him, caught him, and grabbed him by the shirt.
I thought she was going to shoot him.
She wrestled him to the ground. Pressing her handgun into his back, she said through her clenched jaw, "If you move, I will fucking kill you."
Let's go.
Family members and witnesses involved in the incident recounted that she held him there for nearly an hour, waiting for the police to arrive and arrest him. Over the course of 3 years, Miriam aided in apprehending nearly every surviving member of the group of gang members that had kidnapped her daughter for ransom. These criminals had attempted to start new lives, posing as a born-again Christian, a taxi driver, a car salesman, and even a babysitter. It had become her life's mission to get revenge on the men and women responsible, and hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Her nightmare began on January 23rd, 2014, when her daughter Karen Rodriguez was stopped at a red light at an intersection near her home in San Fernando, Mexico. Suddenly, 2 trucks pull up on either side of her car, and 3 men carrying AK-47s got out and told Karen to get out of her truck. She got out and was begging for them to just take her truck and go, but this was no carjacking. The men forced Karen to get back into her truck and drove her to her home that she shared with her mother, Miriam, who was out of town working as a housekeeper just over the border in Texas. As they were tying Karen up inside, there was a knock at the door. It was a friend of the family, a kid Karen grew up with, and his name was Carlos. He was a car mechanic. He was sent to the house by Miriam just to go have a look at Karen's truck because it needed some repairs. The men grabbed Carlos, tied him up, and threw him in the bathroom. Carlos listened as they tortured Karen in the living room, repeatedly putting a plastic bag over her head, suffocating her until the point of almost passing out, and then taking the bag off and letting her breathe again. They did this over and over.
That's not going to help them make money. Why the fuck would they do that?
The men took Carlos and Karen, still tied up, and left the house, driving them to a remote ranch in the middle of nowhere. At 4 a.m. on January 24th, 2014, Miriam gets a phone call from her oldest daughter, Azalea. "What happened?" Miriam asked, knowing that if her daughter's calling her at 4 a.m., something must be wrong. "Something awful, Mama." "With Ernesto?" Miriam asked. "No, with Karen." Miriam told Azalea she was on the way and quickly hung up the phone. She was working for a family in McAllen, Texas. She left a note telling them something had happened to her daughter. She was going back to Mexico, and she wouldn't be coming back. By 6 a.m., she was on the bus headed back to San Fernando. While on the 2-hour bus ride, Miriam sat in the back quietly weeping. A few people tried to console her, and there was an older gentleman who sat across the aisle from her, and he handed Miriam his handkerchief. He asked if Miriam was okay. "No," she said. "My daughter has been kidnapped by the Los Zetas cartel." The old man pulled a piece of paper from his pocket and wrote down a name and a telephone number of his son. "This is my son," he said. "He's a lieutenant in the Marines. Call him. He can help you."
Wow.
Miriam stuffed the paper in her purse and kind of forgot about it. Meanwhile, while Miriam was on her way home, Luis, Karen's father, received a phone call. "Don Luis, by now, you know we have your daughter. After discussing it, we've decided the ransom for Karen is 1 million pesos, which is about $77,000 US.
You know, why would they target them? They don't seem rich. Like, she went somewhere. She's a housekeeper. She sells, like, cowboy hats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why her.
They will find out once later on, once I talk about this cartel. They target everybody.
They
just want any amount of money they can get out of these people.
Wow. Even like just regular people.
Even regular people.
Pieces of shit.
Luis hears Karen's voice. Dad, they just want the money. It's not about anything else. If you pay them, they will let me go. The kidnapper grabbed the phone back and quickly hung up. Azalea asked her father how they will come up with the money. It's more than they had, and they wanted it by 3 p.m. the next day. Luis shook his head. He had to figure something out. At 8 a.m., Luis takes a shower, combs his hair, and heads to the bank to ask for a loan to pay Karen's ransom. At this time, kidnappings were so frequent in Mexico that banks decided to monopolize on this opportunity to offer high-interest loans to desperate families needing to pay the cartels for their loved ones. How crazy is that?
It almost like they're in business with the cartel at that point.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like taking advantage of the situation.
Like the more kidnappings happen, the better for those banks.
Yes, exactly.
You should be trying to discourage these things.
It's all so corrupt. On the bus, Miriam asked the driver to drop her off about a mile away from the San Fernando bus terminal because she knew the Los Zetas were always monitoring it. She wanted to arrive without them knowing. As Miriam walked up to her daughter Azalea's door, her phone rings. It was the kidnappers. They tell Miriam the same thing they told Luis a few hours earlier. Then Karen gets on the phone. Are you okay? Have they hurt you? Miriam asks frantically. No, Mom. It's just about money. Get them their money and they'll let me go. Then the phone hung up. Miriam let out a scream and began to cry. By 10 a.m., Luis was at the bank finalizing the details of the loan. His phone rang again. The caller told him there was a change of plans. They wanted the money earlier than they previously discussed. When Luis tried to protest and ask for more time, the caller said, Listen, old man, this is going to go how we say. Come alone, bring the money, and we'll tell you where to find Karen. Luis, Miriam, Azalea, and their son, Luis Hector, met at Azalea's house with all the money they could possibly gather, along with the money that the bank was willing to loan them. They bagged everything up, and Luis and Miriam drove to the drop-off site. Miriam parked a couple blocks away so she could see Luis meet the man, but she herself was out of sight. 2 hours later, a young man, looking to be no older than 16, walked up to him. The boy reached for the bag of money, but Luis held on to it tight. And my daughter? He asked. At the cemetery, in 20 minutes. The boy grabbed the bag, walked incredibly fast, and then jumped into a red Jeep Cherokee and sped off. Luis stood there for a second, wondering if this was all a setup. He quickly returned to Miriam's car, and the two of them drove to the cemetery. It began to thunderstorm. Miriam and Luis waited in the cemetery parking lot for 6 hours until it became dark, but no one came.
Wow.
Back at Azalea's house, they called the kidnappers, who said it was just bad weather and they couldn't bring her, but as soon as the weather cleared up, they would release Karen. The next
Kidnappers, are they in like the kidnappers union where, you know, like some unions, you don't work if it's raining?
No, it's because the roads flooded.
Oh.
The next day, the family waited in Azalea's house for any news. As the hours passed, a sense of gloom came over them. What if Karen wasn't coming home? A few hours later, a neighbor called Miriam and said that just a few minutes ago, a red Cherokee pulled up in front of Miriam's house, and 2 women got out. They went into the house using a key. They were only there for a few minutes before leaving, but they were wearing some of Karen's clothes and holding a pair of black shoes and Karen's purse. So they literally went to her house with her key, stole her stuff, and then walked out of the house wearing her stuff. These 2 girls. That's
crazy. They really had some cojones.
I know.
I guess that was a little cultural appropriation now.
A few hours later, the kidnappers called back asking for more money. Luis stared into the phone. and Miriam screamed, "We don't have any more money." Kidnappers often did this to the families who paid very quickly because they assumed if they could pay that fast, there was still money left on the table.
Like, no, bitch, I just had good credit and they maxed out the amount they would give me.
Exactly. They couldn't call the cops. Not only would they not help, but most of the Mexican police force was corrupted by the cartels. So it would put Karen's life in greater danger. They were forced to just sit and wait. That night, there was a knock at the door. It was Carlos's mom. Carlos was the car mechanic who got kidnapped with Karen a few days ago. Carlos's mother told the family that the kidnappers called her the same day asking for money. When she told them that she had none, they laughed and said, "Well, we will send him to you in pieces then," and hung up the phone. The next day, Miriam was driving to the store to grab some food for the family when she spotted the red Cherokee again. This time, the car raced ahead of her and cut her off. Two men jumped out and walked up to Miriam's car. "Are you Karen's mom?" "Yes," she said. "Meet me at El Junior in 10 minutes. Come alone." Miriam sat at a table in a small cafe staring at the two men sitting across from her. One of them a little older, tall with light skin and curly hair, and the other small and thin and didn't look to be more than a teenager.
Sounds like she was eyeing them up, like I could take that little one if I had to.
Yeah, she was definitely studying them, for sure. The walkie-talkie on the older one's hip was buzzing and talking every 2 minutes. These were Zetas. Were these the two men that took her daughter, she wondered? She studied them, their faces, their bodies, tattoos. Suddenly, the walkie-talkie said, "Sama, Sama." She realized Sama was his name. She logged it into her memory. Sama told Miriam he was a commander and he could help her get her daughter back. He told Miriam she's alive and unharmed, but she would have to pay $1,600.
Oh, jeez.
And he would go to the head of the Los Zetas cartel in San Fernando, a man named El Larry, and negotiate Karen's release.
So his name isn't just Larry, it's the Larry.
Yes, it's El Larry. Sama.
Like me, the profiler.
Sama, El Larry. She made mental notes of these names. Miriam didn't trust him, but she wanted to believe her daughter was alive. The hope she held on to overwhelmed her, so she agreed. She paid the money, and Sama said he would be in touch. More than a week went by since she paid the $1,600, and there was no word. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was Sama. "The commander has agreed to return your daughter. We just need another small payment."
Oh, geez. He's just going to milk this to the end now.
"Just some pocket change." Miriam was suspicious. "If you say you have my daughter, let me speak to her."
Hell yeah.
"That's not possible. But we will return her now." Miriam ignored the doubtful voice in her head. The glimmer of hope she held on to overcame the hopeless gloom that was beginning to take hold. So she paid the ransom, depositing $400 more at a convenience store in town. Miriam stood in the plaza waiting for Karen to come, but she never came. And late that night, Miriam went back to Azalea's house. Hours turned to days, and then weeks. Miriam sunk into a deep depression, sleeping most of the daylight away, crying on and off for hours, never leaving the house, just wearing pajamas all day long. The family began to worry about Miriam. She was always their rock, the strong one who held the family together. She still had 2 children, a husband, and a store to manage. They feared that this was going to break her.
Yeah, this is crazy because now her daughter's gone and they probably are broke as hell.
Exactly. They gave everything.
Yeah, so now they have no money, they're struggling, and their daughter's gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's just compounding.
Yes. On the morning of the 1-month anniversary of Karen's kidnapping, February 23rd, 2014, Miriam got up, took a shower, and stared in the mirror, brushing her hair for the first time in weeks. She put on makeup and regular street clothes. She walked down to the living room where Azalea was. "Well, It's been a month, and they're not going to bring her back to me. I know this in my heart as her mother, Miriam said.
That's tough, man.
She told Azalea, Karen is dead. She said this very matter-of-factly. No tears, no self-pity, just facts. She stood quietly for a moment and then turned to her daughter and said, for the rest of my days, in the time I have left, I'm going to find the people who did this to my daughter, and I'm going to make them pay.
Hell yeah.
Miriam gathered her things, walked out of the house, got into her husband's truck, and drove to her own house to start gathering information. She opened a notebook and wrote on the top of the page the word targets. Number 1, Sama. You guys already know because we have been talking about them for a while now. Via Hemp is by far one of our favorite sponsors we've ever had, okay? We use their products all the time. Maybe you're a little like me. You're a little anxious. You have a hard time settling down. You're kind of wound up a lot. If that's you, Via Hemp products are for you. Check out their website. You will find something that speaks to you. Maybe you're like Russ. You have a hard time sleeping because you have bad nerve pain or chronic pain. Then Via Hemp is for you because their gummies will help you get some quality sleep. Maybe you're looking to have a really good time. Maybe you just really like edibles. You want to laugh. You want to get the munchies. You want to watch a movie and have a really strong belly laugh. Then Via Hemp products are for you, okay? They're literally for everybody. So head over to viahemp.com, promo code wifeofcrime1 to get 15% off your first order. That's VIIAHEMP.com, wifeofcrime1 for 15% off your first order. Last year, Save More Money was the most popular New Year's resolution in America. Clearly, a lot of us feel like our money is slipping through our fingers. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not the best saver, and I don't know much about investing until I started saving and investing with Acorns. Turns out you don't have to be an expert at all because Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. And I always thought that when people say, ooh, I invest in stocks, that they had a ton of money or something. Well, you don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can literally start with $5. And you know you guys are spending that at Starbucks on these fancy lattes. So skip the coffee and invest with Acorns. You don't even need a ton of time. Like you can just sign up and start investing within 5 minutes. Head over to acorns.com/wifeofcrime or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. That's acorns.com/wifeofcrime. Miriam had always been methodical in how she approached most situations. She was organized and curious and never took no for an answer. When Karen was a young girl, doctors told Miriam Karen would never be able to walk. Miriam researched the #1 children's hospital in America that specialized in the condition that Karen had and got Karen an appointment to see the specialist there.
Oh, she doesn't play around.
They made the multi-hour journey through Mexico and into Texas, multiple bus rides, and Miriam carrying Karen for hours to get to this appointment in Houston. She got there, and the doctors agreed to perform the surgery. She was placed in a full-body cast, and upon her release from the hospital, Miriam took the trek back home with her baby daughter.
In a full-body cast?
In a full-body cast.
Damn.
This hip surgery saved Karen's quality of life. She would grow up able to walk, run, dance, and play like any other kid. This is Miriam. This is how she was.
Determined.
No was not an answer, just a challenge. Everyone who knew Miriam says she should have been a cop. She could find anything out about anyone. And if she hit a dead end, she would find her way through it. She began studying the Los Zetas, the members and their hierarchy.
What year did this happen again?
2014.
Oh, so she's able to get tons of information on the internet. It isn't like she has to walk around and ask necessarily.
Exactly. She utilized the internet a lot. She began studying the Los Zetas cartel, the members, and their hierarchy.
I wonder if you see all the information about Cartel and all of a sudden you get nervous, but she seems like a gangster.
Exactly. She didn't get nervous. She lived in San Fernando long before the Zetas took control. She remembered how it happened, the insidious corruption that slowly spread like a cancer in the region. San Fernando is the largest city in the state of Tamaulipas, a border state with a history of smuggling that goes all the way back to Prohibition. Now, I'm going to warn you, I've already butchered a lot of Spanish throughout this episode, but I'm probably going to butcher a lot more when the names come in.
Yeah, but you're a gringa, so it's all right.
I am a gringa. Okay.
And we learned that from the people in the restaurants we work. They're like, when I go in there and ask for blue cheese, they're like, pinche gringo.
Juan Nepomuceno Guerrera is known as the godfather of the Mexican cartels. He began smuggling alcohol over the border from Mexico to the U.S. in the early 1930s. Alcohol turned to weed, guns, and then in the 70s and 80s, cocaine. This gave rise to one of the most powerful cartels in Mexico, the Gulf Cartel. Until 1996, the Gulf Cartel controlled most of the smuggling in and out of Mexico, with the DEA estimating that they were making, no, not millions, but multiple billions of dollars per year.
That's crazy.
But the trajectory of the Gulf Cartel, as well as the definition of the word cartel, would all change in 1996, when the leader and grandson of the founder would be arrested in the U.S. and put in prison. This would cause a civil war within the cartel to break out, with many men seeking to be the next godfather, in control of the entire operation.
That's interesting because a lot of times countries like ours want to take down the top guy. Mm-hmm. But I always if you just take down the top guy, there's just going to be another guy that comes in after him. Like, it's just a never-ending battle. But then you also don't want to just leave people in there thinking there's no consequences for their actions. So who the hell knows what the right answer is?
It's true. It's really hard to figure out what the right answer is.
So #vote for us. I don't have the answers. But at least I admit it.
A man named Osiel Guillen takes over as the new Don. But this civil war within the group makes them look weak to rival cartels who are looking to take their territory, as well as the Mexican military who wants to take them down. So Guillen, knowing he is in danger of being taken out, is like, bro, I need help. I need a force to protect me. So he enlists the help of a crooked military soldier named Arturo Guzman de Sena, aka Z1. He's a Mexican Special Forces soldier who'd been working with the cartel for many years, taking bribes and helping the cartel find people who are hiding from them. The Mexican Special Forces are an elite group of soldiers who are closely compared to the Green Berets in America.
Wow.
They're a combat group trained by the U.S. Special Forces. Now that Arturo de Sena has agreed to leave the military and work full-time for the Gulf Cartel, he recruits men to work alongside him. Over the next 2 years, he convinces 38 men to leave the military and work for the cartel.
So now they're getting some highly trained people in the cartel, not just some people that have rough lives thinking they're gangster.
Exactly. He offered them way more money than they could ever make in the military. All of these men are Special Forces soldiers. They have code names modeled after their leader, Z1. They have Z2, Z3, Z4, etc.
That's stupid.
These soldiers become the strong arm of the Gulf Cartel, and they call themselves
the Z's,
the Los Zetas.
Ah!
After a few years of working as a bodyguard for the Gulf Cartel leader, Osiel Guillen, they eventually fractured and formed their own cartel, going to war with all rivals in the area and terrorizing cities and states all over Mexico. They use advanced military tactics, as well as sheer torment and depravity to instill fear into Mexican citizens, police, and the government. They took cartel wars to new levels of evil. Public beheadings, cutting rivals up and leaving their body parts in the streets, and senseless killings of innocent civilians who had nothing to do with their world.
Wow, and she's not scared of them.
Exactly. But one way the Los Zetas would fund their operation, and what would turn into one of the most lucrative endeavors the group had ever had, was kidnapping for ransom. San Fernando was ground zero for the Zetas. These are the men that Miriam was up against.
She's going against special forces people from the military.
No, literally, like, they are the most powerful and evil cartel in Mexican history because of how well trained they are.
See, but to me, it seems like they're in trouble because they're going against the Mexican woman, Liam Neeson.
That's what this reminds me of.
So this episode, we're going to call it Taken. And she's about to chop some necks. And I told you I would find you. That moment in the movie Taken gave me the chills.
Yeah, it did.
And I thought that movie was going to be trash. Just like some old man fighting. But if you haven't watched Taken, you haven't lived yet. So go watch that movie and get back to me.
Yeah, it's such a great movie. And I knew this story would remind you of that.
Yeah, I already know she's about to chop necks.
As I said before, Miriam was methodical. She wanted to learn everything she could about the men and women involved in her daughter's crime. She decided she needed to go about this the smartest way possible. She knew who she was up against, and she knew the consequences. Although she wanted to be the angel of death for those responsible for killing her daughter, she knew that in order to actually make progress, she needed resources. She reached out to the police, knowing they wouldn't be much help, but wanting to try and form a team of people she could count on if she needed them. She would frequently call the police, asking if there were any new developments in her daughter's case. The answer was always no. Miriam, trying to figure out who else she could use to help her, remembered the old man on the bus the day Karen was taken.
Wow.
The old man who wrote down the name and number and said, "This is my son. He's a Marine. He will help you." His name was Lieutenant Alex, and Miriam gave him a call. Miriam quickly found out that the Marines operated in a totally different way from the police. They were decisive and lethal.
I love decisiveness.
They didn't bring enemies in to face justice. There was no time for that. They killed Zetas at a ratio of 30-1. One afternoon, in the spring of 2014, Miriam was driving down the road about a mile from her home when she saw two girls sitting outside on a bench laughing as they typed on a laptop. She didn't recognize the two girls, but she did know the laptop. It was Karen's. Miriam parked and called Lieutenant Alex. As she sat and watched, she suddenly saw multiple Marine vehicles pull up and grab the two women and whisk them away.
I thought she was about to be on some Griselda shit and beat them bitches up.
No, she's smarter than that.
She's more tactical.
Yes.
I like it.
She learned that their names were Margarita and Jessica, and they were in their mid-20s. A group of Marines also busted down the door of the home of Margarita, where she lived with her parents. Her parents were home watching TV, and the Marines started destroying the home, asking again and again about their daughter Margarita, who she knows, hangs out with, and when's the last time they had seen her. Her father told them he hadn't seen her in years. She was dead to him. She chose a life of crime. He hated what his daughter had become, and it put a stain on their family. She worked at a tortilla factory, and one day a well-known Zeta named El Tigre took a liking to her.
I think that means tiger.
Yeah. She had a couple kids and decided to trade her life of the daily grind to a life of the criminal underworld. Never having to worry about money again, she was respected and feared among the town as a result of the man she was now with. The Marines found out that her and Jessica were both involved in kidnapping for ransom. They rode around in a van searching for victims and reporting back to the cartel. They were the ones who scouted out Karen.
Fucking bitches.
They planned to raid the ranch where many Zetas were known to hide out. The Marines headed to the ranch only about a mile from Miriam's house with Margarita and Jessica tied up in the car, who they ordered to show them how to get there. Miriam asked Lieutenant Alex if she could join them and watch the raid, so she could see if she could find any clues about her daughter there.
So this is all the Mexican Marines with her?
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy that they actually listened to her. I feel like, imagine the military actually listening to someone and be like, sure, we got your back, we'll go with you.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
They said yes, but she needed to hide, so she put on a Marine uniform so the Zetas didn't know it was her. The ranch was out in the middle of nowhere in a place the locals called the dump because it was where the old San Fernando dump used to be. Once they got there, a fight between the Marines and the members of the Zetas cartel broke out. The Marines began shooting and killed multiple gang members. They also found numerous kidnapping victims tied up. These lives were saved as a result of this raid, Miriam's raid. But none of the people found that day was Karen.
Oh, man, it's not looking good for Karen, man.
After the fighting stopped, Miriam walked the grounds of the ranch, rooms with tables covered in dried blood, a yellow rope with a noose hanging from a tree, numerous IDs and driver's license scattered all over the ground of people that had been kidnapped and brought to this torture ranch. Were these people dead? Had they let any of them go back to their families? She spotted a scarf in the distance. It was Karen's.
This story's breaking my heart.
I know.
But I'm also getting enraged, and I want Miriam to hit me up. Like, I'm going to help you.
I know.
Let's go take some shit down.
She's the bomb.
But I have no training, and I can't really stand up for myself.
Stop. As for Jessica and Margarita, after the firefight, the Marines forced the two women to kneel in front of them. During the raid, they found the body of a pregnant kidnapping victim.
What the fuck?
And they asked the women about her. The women told the Marines that they snatched her off the street and killed her because her family couldn't pay the ransom.
But even if you do pay the ransom, you don't get them back. So,
I know. They then shot Jessica execution style in the head. And they told Margarita to run as fast as she could towards the tree lines. After letting her run for about 30 seconds, almost making it to the trees, they shot and killed her too.
I'm not going to lie, I don't feel bad.
Me neither.
See, you're a nice person, so that's something.
Altogether, the Marines killed 6 Zetas that day, 3 men and 3 women, and saved the lives of multiple kidnapping victims. Miriam didn't tell her family about the raid. It was all over the media. They didn't have to talk about it. Azalea, Luis Hector knew. They knew this raid happened because of Miriam.
It's crazy that they knew that she was that gangsta.
Yeah, they knew her mother. She said she was going to make them pay, and they just knew it was her. Miriam decided to set her sights next on Sama. So she started with what she knew. She knew his nickname was Sama. She always suspected that he was behind her daughter's kidnapping. Miriam began searching online for Sama, spending hours and hours trying to find him. She knew that wasn't his real name. She also knew that she couldn't go to the authorities with the name Sama. She needed his government name. After weeks of searching online, she sees a picture on Facebook of Sama with a girl who looks to be his girlfriend. The girl is wearing a uniform worn by workers in a popular ice cream chain in Mexico. Miriam decides to stake out each and every location of the ice cream chain. There were 4 total. Miriam sits outside each location for days and days, looking for the girl in the picture. She stayed quiet and inconspicuous, the slow grind of building a case and finding information. She spent days doing this until finally she sees her. The girl in the picture is right in front of her. She keeps her cool, and for the next few days studies her schedule, begins showing up when the shop opens and leaves when it closes, waiting for the time that Sama would pick up his girlfriend from work. And then it happens. One evening, Sama comes to pick his girlfriend up from work. Miriam follows them home. She writes down the address, And the following day, she pulled her uniform she once wore when she was a worker for the state health department out of her closet. She puts it on and grabs her expired badge and an old leather-bound notebook that she used when she would conduct surveys.
See, Jess, this is why I don't throw my old clothes away, and you say I'm a hoarder. Don't throw my stuff away. What if I need a disguise one day?
There you go. What if you need a disguise? Good point.
Or I need to paint, and I need an old pair of jeans to get paint on.
Yeah, okay.
Well, now I don't need to paint.
Miriam drives to the neighborhood and the home where Sama and his girlfriend went the night before. She started a couple streets away and spent the entire day going door to door, telling residents that she worked for the health department and needed to conduct a census. She needed the names and ages of every member of the household and pretended she would register them in a database. After hours going house to house, she made it to Sama's home. An older woman answered the door, and she got the information she needed.
Wow.
So she spent the whole day going door to door in this disguise, knowing that she wasn't just going to go straight to his house. She wanted the neighbors to talk about it. She wanted to be as inconspicuous as possible.
Well,
and she got his name, his birthday, and his birthday.
I would have pulled up with that pistol.
This is why she's methodical.
Yeah, because she'll get them all. I would have been a dumbass, shot one and went to jail.
Yes, exactly. Or died, because they would have killed you.
Well, not if you shoot them first with, sneakiness.
Well, there's multiple of them.
In Sama's house?
No, just in general. There's multiple Los Zetas, and they're going to come after you.
Absolutely, but it would have been a wrap for Sama.
On July 31st, 2014, Miriam called the police in charge of Karen's case and told them she had identified the Zeta known as Sama. She asked them to issue an arrest warrant. After telling the cops his name, his birthday, and his address, she expected an arrest to be made. But a week went by, and nothing was done. She then decided to send a formal request. A well-written document using all kinds of legal jargon, she wrote a long formal request to the head of the kidnapping division. But again, weeks go by and nothing is done.
She said, "To whom it may concern, get these bitches before I shoot them."
She definitely did a really good job, because I read the whole document and she did a great job. It was like a lawyer wrote it.
I really wish I had the patience like that to keep my cool. I would have blew it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I got to be tactical and not always just react.
Yeah, no, she didn't react. She really thought through everything.
She's a G.
But again, weeks go by and nothing is done. She went to multiple government agencies. And by the time that anyone listened to her, Sama had moved away. Miriam had a friend who knew a police officer that agreed to meet with her and discuss her daughter's case. The pair met at El Jr., the same cafe that Miriam had her first conversation with Sama. Miriam opened her bag and dumped all the papers out on the table. Months and months of notes detailing everything she found about Sama and the other men and women involved in her daughter's kidnapping and murder. She had pictures of each one of them, with their gang name and real name scribbled next to each photo. She told the officer that she'd been investigating these people for 6 months. She needed an ally, someone that she could count on in law enforcement that wasn't corrupted by the Zetas. "If I call you, I want to be able to get results," she said. And the man agreed. In September, Luis Hector, Miriam's son, was closing up his shop that he owned in the state capital. This was the nation's Independence Day celebration, and he decided to close up early to enjoy the festivities. Suddenly, Luis Hector realized that the man who was trying on hats in his store as he was counting down the register was Sama. He knew it was him because he'd been carrying around a picture of him in his wallet for months.
Wait, was Sama there to see Luis?
No.
Or was he just trying on hats to be jiggy?
This is just a coincidence.
I said jiggy. And I hate Will Smith. And I hate bald-headed scallywag Jada Pinkett Smith.
Well, this is just a coincidence. He happened to go into his store.
He should have threw him in the chokehold and put him to sleep.
No. You react way too fast.
I know.
Hoping one day to have a chance to come face to face with one of the men responsible for killing his sister, Luis decided, instead of confronting him, he would follow Sama as he walked with his girlfriend and family through the crowded event. Luis Hector called Miriam and whispered into the phone, "Sama is here. I'm following him." Miriam told him, "Do not let him out of your sight." She hung up and immediately called the federal officer and said
hype.
Her son is following Sama and where they are. The officer mobilized multiple other officers in the area and called Luis Hector to get their exact location.
I think Miriam said, she called the police officers and she said, "You better get there before I do, because if I get there, it's a wrap for Sama."
Sama was then arrested and taken to the precinct and interrogated. Miriam drove as fast as she could to the capital, which was typically a 2-hour drive away from her home. She got to the police station while Sama was in the interrogation room. Miriam knew all the names of everyone involved, so she thought. She knew the details so intimately that the cops couldn't have conducted the interrogation without her. She fed them questions to ask Sama the whole time, to extract as much info out of him as she could. He, of course, blamed everyone else. They got more names from him of people involved in her kidnapping. One was in prison, one was now dead, and one more was named Cristiano. According to Sama, Cristiano told him they killed Karen at the ranch in San Fernando. Sama said, "He said they killed her in an awful way, but didn't tell me the details." He gave the police Cristiano's address, so the police went and arrested him as well. They interrogated him for hours and tortured him between the questions.
I'm for it.
At one point, he was crying and saying how hungry he was. Miriam had a chicken wrapped up in cellophane in her purse. She unwrapped it and told the officer to give it to him. The officers brought her in the room, and she did it herself.
I would have taped that shit to his forehead just so he could smell the chicken.
They asked her why she would do this, and she said, "Two truths can exist at once. You can hate a murderer and feel sympathy for a scared, hungry boy." And with this, Cristiano poured his soul out to Miriam and the investigators, telling them everything and the names of all involved. He agreed to take Miriam to the place Karen was buried at the ranch. Once there, though, the spot was already dug up and Karen's remains weren't there anymore.
Why would they move it?
Why would they move her remains? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, she's already gone.
Cristiano told Miriam and the officers about the remaining people who were still alive and were involved with Karen's death. Sama, El Larry, El Chipo, and the florist. El Flaco, and La Chaparra. Are you laughing at me?
You did your best, gringa.
I tried. Miriam wrote down all the names. Throughout 2015 and 2016, Miriam continued running her business and working on her investigation. Sama and Cristiano were both sent to prison. Margarita and Jessica were killed. Ilary and El Chepo both sent to prison. Miriam even visited El Chepo in prison asking for more information, but he wouldn't give it to her. On March 27th, 2016, a tipster called Miriam and told her he spotted the florist at the International Bridge. Without hesitation, she threw on her trench coat over her pajamas, put on a baseball cap, grabbed her pistol, and went after him. After holding him at gunpoint in a citizen's arrest for an hour, the police came and got him, and he was also sent to prison.
So these gangsters that she's going after don't even have a gun because she's holding them down with a gun. You think they would have drew too and someone would have got killed?
Yeah. Miriam gained a reputation among the town and was now working for multiple organizations to help other families find disappeared loved ones.
Let's go, Miriam.
She helped families investigate the people responsible all the while still working Karen's case.
That's scary, though. She's messing with the cartel, and you think the cartel would have just offed her.
On March 27th, 2017, 23 prisoners dug their way through an underground tunnel out of the prison and escaped. A man named El Quique was one of them. El Quique, Miriam would come to find out, was the man responsible for actually killing Karen. The rope with the noose that Miriam saw dangling from the tree at the ranch 2 years ago was the very rope they used to hang her daughter.
Oh my God, and they just left it there?
El Quique was the one who tied the noose around Karen's neck and pulled the rope and hung her. Miriam heard that El Quique was one of the men that escaped from prison. And for the first time in the last 3 years, Miriam seemed afraid. She gave Luis Hector a pistol and told him to keep it on him at all times and don't hesitate to use it. She called her officer friends and told them she needed surveillance on her house, which they did here and there, but with no real consistency. She told a close friend of hers that she may die soon. She got word that there was a hit on her. May 10th, 2017, it was Mother's Day, and Miriam called Azalea and told her, "Let's meet tonight at my house and have some cake." It was a little after 10 p.m. when Luis heard gunshots outside. He ran out to the front and saw Miriam laying face down on the sidewalk.
Ah, fuck. She's a fucking legend.
The Zetas were watching Miriam from a neighbor's yard. When she got out of her car, 2 men stepped out into the street and started walking towards her. They both pulled out 9mm handguns and shot 13 times.
Wow.
Miriam was shot 8 times. She was still breathing, a slow, gargled breath. Luis and Azalea rushed Miriam to the hospital. As soon as they got there, they prepared for surgery. But a few minutes after Miriam was rushed into surgery, a doctor came out and told the family Miriam was dead. Miriam's death sent shockwaves throughout Mexico and beyond.
So everyone knew her?
Yes, at this point she had a reputation. She was helping multiple families. She was part of many organizations. Everybody knew her now.
The world is such a better place when Miriam's in it.
I know.
Like, people like her really make it a better place.
I know. Miriam's death sent shockwaves through Mexico and beyond, shining a spotlight on the dangers faced by those who dare to stand up to the cartels. Miriam Rodriguez's story is a testament to the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. Her unwavering love for her daughter Karen drove her to defy the odds, confront unimaginable dangers, and ultimately sacrifice her own life in the pursuit of justice. Miriam's courage and determination serve as a powerful reminder of the extraordinary lengths a mother will go to protect her child, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. Her legacy lives on as a beacon of hope and inspiration, a testament to the enduring power of a mother's love. So to all of our amazing mom listeners out there, happy Mother's Day.
Wow. That was a nice ending there.
Thank you.
And
this story was crazy.
Miriam, if there were more people like Miriam in the world,
Mm-hmm.
the world would be a better place. Loyalty.
Yeah.
Like unwavering loyalty with patience and not just aggression.
Yeah.
And my dumb ass might have killed one person right away when they wasn't looking and then went to jail or got smoked.
Yep. I know. It's like she was so good at like being so methodical, being not reactionary. Like, she's the bomb. And, you know, like
she's the Mexican Liam Neeson from Taken.
She is. Well, but Liam Neeson was a special forces guy who killed everybody. So
she was special in her own force.
She was. She definitely was. And
why is there not a movie? I'm sorry, I cut you off again. Why is there not a movie of her? This is like epic.
I know. This book is phenomenal. I'm telling you, the book itself is 12 hours long if you listen to it on
What's
Audible.
it called?
It's called Fear is Just a Word.
Well, people could read it too.
By Azam Ahmed. But it's 12 hours long on Audible. So I left out so many things that are so important to the story. I tried to give as much detail as possible to try to get it into a podcast episode. But if you're interested, you guys have to go listen to this book because it's even more in depth and gives you a lot more history of their family, history of the cartels, history of the area of Mexico. Like, it just gets way more detailed, and it's so good.
I'm pretty interested. I think I'm going to listen to this one.
Yeah, it's on our Audible.
I don't know if it'll top Michelle McNamara's book. That was my number one, the Golden State Killer book.
Yeah.
What was it? I'll Be Gone in the Dark?
Yeah.
To me, that was the number one true crime book of all time.
Yeah, that one was really, really
Hands
good.
down.
Yeah.
If you guys think there's a better true crime book than that, let me know. But you have to have had listened to I'll Be Gone in the Dark before you could try to wrong me.
Okay.
Because I'll wrong you.
Well, yeah, I don't know how this is not a Netflix series. I truly don't.
Not Netflix series.
Or a Netflix. I mean, series
movie.
are bigger than movies at this point.
She's like Griselda, but for good.
Yeah.
She's the Pablo Escobar of good.
Yeah.
Like she's the anti-villain.
Mm-hmm.
She's Batman.
She's amazing.
Or maybe she's Alfred because she didn't have no gadgets.
She's truly amazing, and I
R.I.P. Miriam.
went down this long ass rabbit hole this week, just looking up the history of the cartels in the area. Like, I went down these long rabbit holes, and I didn't even know how to narrow this all down into a podcast episode. It was really difficult. And because there's just so many things about her that are so amazing that I wanted to include. So R.I.P. Miriam, you are literally the best mom ever.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
And hopefully her kids know this.
I'm sure they do.
And I wish she would get more recognition.
And attention, yeah.
Yeah. I saw this on like an article, but I only read the article like Mom Hunts Down Cartel or something like that.
Yeah.
But I never like actually got into it. And now I'm going to check out the book for sure.
Well, the articles, like a lot of articles that are out there, and unless it's the New York Times article that was written by Azam Ahmed, unless it was an article written by him, literally no one else knows the intense detail of the case like he does. So even if you read any articles or watch YouTube videos about her case or anything, everyone glosses over the details. They don't really go into depth about the details. And the details are where the most important parts of the story are.
So most people are just doing it like a TikTok story, like quick Mom
Super
hunts
quick.
down.
Yeah.
Cartel.
Yeah, like they don't go into detail of what she did, like literally dressing up as this health department worker, pretending to do a census, going on the raid with the Marines, having these contacts, dressing up as a Marine. Like, they don't go into details of how much of an investigation she did, staking out the ice cream shop for all those days, waiting for Summer's girlfriend to show up. Like, it's just crazy.
Do we know how old she was when she died?
Well, she was 56 when she hunted down the florist, and that was in 2016. So she was 57.
Damn.
When she died. Yeah.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah, she was young.
Well,
yeah,
Miriam,
she was the best.
You're missed.
Yeah, definitely. I loved this episode, and I think it was one of my favorite stories that I have written in a long time. I know I say that all the time.
Let me ask you this.
What?
Is this a Not Me, Not Today?
No, I don't know if it's a Not Me, Not Today. I don't think so, because Karen did die.
Borderline Not Me, Not Today, like, don't fuck with my mom kind of shit. This is...
You mean don't... Yeah, that's true.
Like, Mama said knock you out. Like LL Cool J said.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to knock you out.
Yeah, it's not quite a Not Me, Not Today, because unfortunately, Miriam did get killed for this. So...
Yeah, but she took down a lot of people.
She did, yeah. People died and went to prison because of her, which is crazy.
So, what do you think about my new shirt, Jess, that I'm wearing? The Camp Wife of Crime, You Don't Want This Smoke. I'm feeling fresh today.
Yeah. No, it's a really good one.
Yeah.
You glad you finally got it?
Yeah, I've been begging.
I know. Well, you got it.
Yeah. And I'm feeling good because I got my Via Hemp, them 10 milligrams rocking right now. VIIA.
Yep. You've been eating those edibles up.
Yeah, and I was normally never like this, but if you want a discount, go over there and put Wife of Crime 1.
Yep.
They got a lot. They got the joints for sexy time and all that.
Yeah, they have pretty much an edible for anything you want.
Yeah.
Check us out on Patreon at Wife of Crime Pod and Facebook at Wife of Crime The Crime Family. And
wifecrime.com to get the dope ass merch if you ain't got nothing to wear. Or I can't believe you didn't get your mother something from our merch store that says "Not Me, Not Today" because she's probably tired of your shit.
All right, everybody, have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Peace.